So the White House, aka President Trump, decided that he did not like the Obama era emission standards that were set, and so he wanted to roll these emission standards back. And the White House, President Trump specifically went after California and said, I don't think it's right that this state gets to override federal regulations. And so we're going to take away California's ability to set individual and unique, emission standards. And the other, 22 states, or there's 12 states. Is it now? Paul, are you 13 now?
We're almost there. We're not officially there.
Okay. Yeah, 13 other states currently use California's vehicle rules. So on Friday, and this was last Friday, that's where 22 comes in, California and 22 other U.S. states challenged the Trump administration's decision to revoke California's legal authority to set vehicle tailpipe emissions. Now, here's the catch. Or not catch, I don't know. Here's the twist. You would think that this would simply be between the White House and the states' rights, federal rights, and they would argue between themselves. But what happened was you had General Motors, Fiat Chrysler, Toyota, and Nissan, who said, hey, we're going to agree with the Trump administration, and California, we think that you should lose your ability to set standards. Which begs the question, did you really think you could choose sides and not have any, resulting whiplash from that? So as a result, the state of California said, we're no longer going to buy any cars from General Motors, Fiat Chrysler, Toyota Motor Corp, and Nissan. And in fact, between 2016 and 2018, California purchased almost $59 million in vehicles from GM, $56 million from Fiat Chrysler, $11 million from Toyota, and $9 million from Nissan. And they said, instead, we're going to go with these other vehicle manufacturers who Ford, Honda, BMW, and Volkswagen, who chose California's side and said, we agree with California. They are now going to see an increase in purchases from the state of California, whereas everyone else is not only going to see a decrease, but according to California,
they're going to sell zero.
Complete halt. Yeah, they're going to sell zero. So as you can imagine, those manufacturers are now suing California and saying you can't do that. But yeah,
so I assume the Republicans are in uproar about this challenge to states' rights.
Yeah, of course they are, because they're principled people.
Yes.
Right.
Believe me, this is a hoax from China.
From China. It's all about China. Yes. So yeah, that's where previous dude Jeff Sessions was all about states' rights until you asked him about legalizing marijuana, in which case it's a federal thing. He was all about states' rights until you talked about California emission control, in which case it should be set from the federal. California has been pushing these limits and forcing manufacturers to create more fuel-efficient vehicles, and everyone has benefited from that.
They actually cleaned up a good deal of their smog problem.
Well, and right. The California automobile market is larger than most countries on the planet.
Yep.
Exactly. And so the argument, and I did some research, why would these manufacturers side with the Trump administration to reduce the emissions? And it goes for different things. Some of it is they didn't like having to make cars that met these regulations. It's easier and cheaper for them to make, other cars. Some of them argued that they didn't believe California should have the right to set the standards, that it should be a federally negotiated thing. And maybe the Obama era 5% increase was too high, and they wanted to negotiate down more like 2.5%, 3% year over year. The problem is the Trump administration proposal was 1.5%, So even lower than where they said that it should be lowered to. So there's a whole lot of back and forth.
I heard the Trump administration's going to mandate clean coal-powered cars.
Yeah.
Wait, this would do that?
It just might. Yeah.
Clean coal-powered station wagons.
Yes.
Yeah, see?
That might be the show title.
But see, here's the thing: is these manufacturers all volunteered to comply with the standards, and then all of a sudden they're okay with not. And then there's the other thing: is that in 2030, 2040, and 2050, they can't sell these combustion vehicles anywhere in Europe. Well, not nowhere, but almost nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why bother?
India.
Yeah, India,
Korea.
Yeah.
China.
Yeah.
Brazil.
Thank you. Sorry.
China is on that EV kick, though.
The entire continent of Africa?
But I just think, I mean, Casey, you have a point.
Midwest of USA.
We have to look a couple decades in the future and say, where are we going to be? Where should we be? I mean, we have to look at our future selves, and we have to ask ourselves, what kind of cars do we want our children buying? What kind of air do we want our children breathing?
Very air.
Yeah.
Right. But from
in Venice, you're going to need a submarine car.
Yeah.
So from the manufacturer side of things, I think they just don't like the restrictions on their autonomy, and they probably feel like the noose is tightening even ever more, right? And I can see where they wanted to try to resist, not so much so that they can start creating cars that are filthy, dirty gas guzzlers, but the continued pressure does make things difficult for them. I get that, and so they'd like to see some easing of that. But you're right. I mean, eventually they're going to have to get it to the point that the emissions are lower, and they might as well accept the standards.
I bet you they were already compliant, or at least had the models ready to go.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't like it wasn't like they were still struggling to get there. They were already there.
The cost per car is a non-issue.
Yeah.
The manufacturers argue, it costs $800 more a car to build a emissions-friendly car or whatever. But if they all got to do it, they're all going to be competitive with each other.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think at best that's a very disingenuous argument from the manufacturers, saying that, it costs us more, it's harder. It's like, no, it isn't. It's some other operations you have to do, which you could do just as much for infotainment or for a fake quad exhaust or something.
Right. My favorite are the fake quad exhausts.
It's just not. I mean, that's a very, very dishonest argument, in my opinion.